Russell Westbrook is a Washington Wizard. I know it sounds weird as hell, and it's gonna be different seeing him out of Houston, but let's be honest, Westbrook isn't coming any different. Like always, analysts are trying to force certain narratives down people's throats on who won this trade, but truthfully, this is one of the few trades that I see no clear winner to yet. If anything, both sides won this trade. Some analysts are saying that with the Rockets receiving an underrated point guard in John Wall, who might mesh with Harden better than Westbrook, Houston won this trade. But they are undermining who Westbrook really is. The Westbrook coming to DC is the same meet you at the rim, make my teammates better, and be the fiercest competitor on the floor Westbrook that we have seen throughout his star-studded career. I know Westbrook gets a lot of shit for his inconsistencies, bold personality, and playoff woes, but this doesn't change the fact that Westbrook is still one of the best guards and best leaders in the league, regardless of the constant media bashing that he receives. And while the Wizards fanbase had to say their goodbyes to quite possibly the best guard to have put on a Wizards jersey, the DC fanbase is receiving a guard that brings the same, actually even more intensity night in and night out. The 9-time All-Star might not be perfect, but the explosive guard is going to bring all he can, and if I was a Wizards fan, I'd be excited. But before we get into Westbrook's history, what he'll bring to the Wizards, and the Wizards' outlook for the 2020 season, I just want to say welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I'm posting weekly and trying my best to continue to produce high quality videos for you guys. I also want to thank you guys for showing your support on my previous videos, and if you enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like so more people can see my content. But enough of that, let's talk about the Russell Westbrook effect. 9-time All-Star and previous MVP winner, Russell Westbrook has received a lot of accolades over his career, and rightfully so. Unfortunately though, he hasn't been able to translate his regular season game over to the playoffs the last couple of years. In the playoffs, his struggles have been very apparent, and his career has been on a steady decline since his MVP season in 2017. But even though he's had his struggles, there's no doubt all NBA caliber Westbrook is still very much alive. Like always, his stats are always absurd for a point guard, and this year he averaged 27.2 points, 7 assists, and 7.9 rebounds on a quote-unquote down year. He even has showed flashes of greatness this season, and in particular, during the month of February, it seemed that Westbrook had returned to his MVP form for a brief period of time. He was hitting clutch shots left and right, knocking down threes, and was their go-to scorer in the month of February. To sum up what I saw that month, let's just say Westbrook could do it all. He led the Rockets to a 7-win and 1-loss month, and wait till you hear what he put up that month. In the month of February, Russ averaged 33.4 points on 54.9% from the field, 6.4 assists, and 7.3 rebounds. On paper, Russ had nearly a perfect month, and proved to the world he was still capable of putting up MVP numbers, maybe not every night, but on some occasions. Westbrook might not be who he used to be, but the Wizards will get someone who can be their go-to scorer on some nights, and on others be an outspoken leader who can distribute the ball as good as anyone. And while there's no doubt Westbrook can put up numbers, while this video is supposed to address how good Westbrook and the Wizards will be this season, I have to keep it a buck and address the concerns that Westbrook will bring to Washington. The biggest and main concern has to be how he will fare in the playoffs with Washington. His playoff inconsistencies have become a recurring problem over the past couple seasons, which have cost him credibility and sometimes even his team at times in the postseason. These inconsistencies stem from just the shift of playing field during the playoffs. The playoffs are a time when every team buckles down and plays defense a little tighter, because at that point every game is do or die. This causes the court to shrink a little, and players like Westbrook who thrive in the transition game tend to lose a step just because of playoff intensity. This shift in playing field hasn't hurt only Westbrook either. It's hurt stars like Giannis and even John Wall before too. In the 2020 postseason, Giannis would get collapsed on like no other in the playoffs and had to resort to shooting the ball more, which he wasn't adept at doing. Giannis' newfound issues are similar to that of Westbrook's. When he's forced to shoot, it seems like he can't hit a shot to save his life. But when he shoots on his own agenda, at times he can shoot lights out. Part of it was the system he played in under D'Antoni too though, and the excess amount of isolation utilized in Houston. But with Westbrook going to a new system under his old coach Scott Brooks, I believe things will look a lot different in comparison to Houston. If Westbrook's beloved old coach Scott Brooks can implement the same system that he used while Westbrook was on the Thunder, Westbrook might become more efficient as a scorer and distributor. Not only that, but Scott Brooks has always been Westbrook's favorite coach and was in part responsible for his 2017 MVP run. In 2016, after Brooks was let go, Westbrook was quoted saying, "Scotty's my guy. He gave me a real shot to be able to do some of the things I do and make mistakes, and he always had my back in that situation, especially when I first got here." The dynamic that Westbrook and Brooks had allowed Westbrook to play the type of basketball he wanted to play, which pushed him to his MVP form in 2017. Brooks even coached Westbrook to the farthest he has ever gone to in the playoffs on any team, which was the 2012 Finals. That year's young, prodigious, and superstar-filled team with Westbrook, KD, and Harden made it to the Finals but couldn't get past the team in much need of a Finals victory, the Miami Heat. But there's no doubt Westbrook is bringing some much-needed playoff experience to a young DC team. With Westbrook coming to a team full of shooters and young talent eager to get a taste of the playoffs, the outlook for the Wizards looks extremely bright. Not only that, but I know for damn sure Bradley Beal is ready to get back to the playoffs and prove that he isn't just a glorified scorer. Beal has something to prove after missing the playoffs for the second year in a row and being absolutely snubbed from the All-Star game last year. I mean, let's be honest, if any NBA player puts up 28.6 points per game, 6.3 assists per game, 4.4 rebounds, regardless of how many wins they had, I'm putting them in the damn All-Star game. But none of that matters now. The Wizards are still Beal's franchise and he's excited to play alongside Westbrook. He was quoted by The Athletic saying, "Our job is to protect him, make sure that he's comfortable, making sure he knows the system, and making sure he fits well with us." Beal is ready to get to work with Brody, and with Beal being able to play off-ball at a high level and still put up absurd scoring numbers, he'll slide perfectly alongside Westbrook in the backcourt. Then surrounding these two is an abundance of young talent and knockdown shooters. You got Rui Hachimura at the small forward, or their recent draft pick Denny Advija, two of the hardest working young players in the last two draft classes. They both have a three-point shot that needs a little bit of tuning, but other than that, they're promising prospects. Then at power forward, you have Davis Bertans, a three-point specialist who can knock down the catch-and-shoot three as good as anyone in the league. And finally at center, they have a polarizing and live center named Thomas Bryant who brings so much energy to the game. His passion and drive is like that of Westbrook's, but at the center position. Their rotation, no doubt, is some of the strongest in the East. Then coming off the bench, they have tons of young and veteran talent, which last season was one of the top 3 benches in the entire NBA. There's no doubt they have talent on this year's Wizards team, but where do I think they can achieve in terms of the NBA standings? I mean, I still have Milwaukee, Miami, Toronto, the Nets, and the Celtics beating out the Wizards just from each of their teams' lineups, but I think the Wizards at their best can grab the 6th seed following those teams, and at worst, I think they still reach the playoffs at the 8th seed, losing out to 2 of the Pacers, Hawks, and or Sixers. With a 27th ranked defense last year and not much changing in the defensive department, they won't be able to crack the top 4 without changing their defensive system. But I do have a bit of faith in this year's Wizards team, and I'm thinking they're one of the few teams in the East that can actually pull off an upset. Also, for Beal's sake, and the Wizards fans out there, I do hope you guys make the playoffs. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did get this far in the video, please drop a like, because it goes a long way, and drop a comment on where you think the Wizards will land in the Eastern Conference. But until next time.